All right, happy to be joined today by somebody who doesn't do a lot of interviews, which makes it even better. Ellen Calipari. I love the jersey. Well done. I appreciate you joining us.
It's my best outfit. Thank you.
I notice you wear that a lot. Like, my mom is like this, sort of always being proud of everything you do. It's got to make you proud to see Brad in the UK jersey, because that might not be something you always thought was going to happen, right?
No. And, I have become that mom. So it was a hard decision. It was a long decision. It was one that he had to make on his own. I do know, just from talking to other people, not him, because he didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. He did do his homework. I talked to EJ when he was on the team, and he had called EJ and said, what's it like to be a walk-on on the team? I know he talked to Kenny Payne, and Kenny said because Kenny told us, and he said he told Brad that he should probably talk to us, and I said, it's probably better if he talks to you.
Yeah, I mean, over the years they've had coaches' sons, and it's been at times a rocky time for some of them. For Saul Smith, for instance, Sean Sutton before that. Did you think at all about that, if there would be any pressure on him because of that, being the son, even more so than just being a walk-on? Sure,
you do think of that because you have heard those stories. And you don't want people to think you're coming just because your dad's the coach. And that was not the reason he came, and that was the reason, he put so much thought into it. And I think, his sisters weren't sure that it was going to be a good idea just because of that. But, like I said, he did his homework. He knew what he was getting into. And I think it just kind of made us prouder of him that he made that decision. And
but the fans have embraced him. I mean, every time he comes in, he gets that love. Yeah, as a mom, you gotta like that.
Yes, very happy about that.
Now, we've talked a lot about Brad, and we obviously talk a lot about John. But I actually wanted to talk to you because you are not a public figure, and I've always gotten the sense, you and I have always gotten along, and I've always gotten the sense that the public limelight is not something you love, like say your husband does. Am I right about that?
No, you can tell he loves it.
But is it not? It's something you don't enjoy.
And you know what? It was not. It's not my choice. It's not the choice of my kids, and I think that's why we're very guarded. I've tried to protect them because it is something you have to protect yourself from, kind of. If it's not your choice. You just want to live your life as a normal person, and sometimes that can be difficult to do.
I would think that would be especially difficult here. I mean, it's not just that you're a public figure, you're a big fish in a relatively small pond, unlike, say, Massachusetts or Memphis. Am I right about that?
Yes, very, very right about that.
Have you gotten used to that, like going to the grocery store and people saying, oh, there's Ellen Calipari? Is that something that you ever really get used to?
I don't know. I think you do get used to it. Of course, because of Brad being here and me being more comfortable with that, more people recognize who I am, where I could just kind of go under the radar more.
Oh, really? Were you able to go under the radar for a while?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, no one knew who I was.
But that's actually impressive that you were able to do that. And that actually I could see being a lot easier, being able to still be John's wife, but not known everywhere.
It's hard to do. I mean, and that's why I do the thing with my kids, and you kind of just keep your head down and just, kind of plow through things. And, we've had, as, the kids and I sometimes are separate from what he does. He's, his term is no crying on the yacht. I'm not so sure we've been on the same yacht that he's on.
That's interesting.
Because our yacht has been in some rough waters, and our kids have had a hard time. Megan tried to come here. It was very overwhelming for her.
When she decided to do that, I wondered if that would work. But I've noticed with Megan and Aaron, they both are prominent in social media. And I think you haven't done anything like that. Do you ever say to them, what are you all doing, or they just live their own lives?
Yeah, they do their own thing. And,
Well, I want to talk privacy for a second. You famously, when you all got here, got one of the most public houses you could get. I mean, right there on a main thoroughfare in Lexington. What was that decision like to sort of choose to have it's not the White House, but it's a house that everybody can get right up there next to?
And it's funny you use the word choose, because I did not choose that. He is the house hunter.
Yeah.
And he has been everywhere we've lived. And I think that the choice in that was kind of to be close to campus,
Okay.
not necessarily to be on such a main street. People would have sought out where we were anyway.
Probably true. And there's a little bit of being in that public almost helps than if you were like on a driveway that everybody could get to. But that's very public.
It is very public, and you know, it's uncomfortable going and getting the mail. It's
Really?
uncomfortable taking the trash down. Yeah, because it's somebody honks, somebody yells, you know, which is nice. It's not in a bad way. It's just, you know, sometimes I'll wait till it's dark.
Really?
I do.
Now I've always found you fascinating because you are in many ways from a personality standpoint, just from afar, seem to be almost the exact opposite of John. I mean, he seems to love the limelight. He talks to everyone. You're very much to yourself. Is that why you think it works with him in some ways, a yin and a yang there?
I think so. I mean, I don't think we could be more opposite, probably. And I think that's, you know, I don't think he could function with somebody else like him.
Yeah,
He's crazy. Yeah.
I don't think he could either.
I was
actually.
told when we were at Kansas and we were dating the secretary in the basketball office, they looked out for me, and I just remember her saying he's high strung. And that was probably an understatement.
I see Eric Lindsay over there smiling. I
Yeah.
think he knows that's the truth too. The basketball coach's wife, just in general, it's a lot of moving, right? Like, I mean,
It is a lot of moving.
For your kids and you. I always that's not talked about, how much you have to go from one place to the other. Just when you get settled, you're going somewhere else. How's that been to get used to?
It's hard. We're doing it on our own. You know, there's not much sympathy, which I kind of understand. But you are moving to places you don't know. You have kids. You're trying to do what's best for your kids to keep them happy, you know, help them to make friends, and adjust to schools, adjust to teachers. You know, Megan once said too something about, you know, you always told us we're not like anyone else. Or we're like everyone else, she says, but we're not.
No, I'm sure that's true. And part of that is criticism. How do you deal, like take the Memphis situation. You all had great memories there, I'm sure, and had a great time. And then you leave, and then the criticism. Or in a place like this, if you lose a couple games, the criticism. How do you deal with that?
It's hard because you know how much time is involved. You know the effort involved, and you know you're kind of suffering along with them. You know, you're doing your thing with the kids and doing homework and school and stuff, and at the same time, those become your kids. You're looking out for them. You know, I've spent so many hours in the gym, whether, you know, going, watching practice, you know, even before Brad was on the team.
Yes.
I've done some gym time, and it's hard to watch, you know, losses, and you know, they are of a higher impact here, you know, when you lose a game.
Do you hear it?
but-
Like, do you feel like the criticism, or are you immune, or like, do you not? I mean, I know you don't listen to like my show, but do you hear the sort of chatter, or does it not get to you?
I kind of, I guess, don't travel in those circles where
Okay.
I hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I try to avoid that. I probably have a handful of friends that I do things with, and you know, that's not a part of the little world that I try to be a part of.
I've always wondered, do you like basketball?
If he weren't coaching tomorrow, I'd be fine with that.
So you're not watching basketball in your spare time.
No.
So what do you like?
I'm not a sports person, and I get involved in it because it's an emotional attachment for
Yeah.
me. with the players, the connection, and with him and what he does, and the staff and stuff. But
My mom is totally like that too. She only watches all this stuff because of me. I want to ask you about the players. You mentioned that they kind of become almost like your children when they're here. Especially you're getting these kids when they're 18 years old, vulnerable, moving across the country, a lot of pressure on them. What have you seen in that regard, and what do you see as your role with them when they're here?
I don't know, just to let them know that I'm a part of things. I don't try to become the mother or try to get too involved. I'm not pushy. I'm just kind of there and, give them hugs. And like I hugged Bam after a game the other day and said, I want to go out there and beat somebody up because they're just beating you up every game. You're bleeding, you're doing this. He said, yeah, my nose, my lip, it's just, you do become attached to them because they're kids, they're away from home. And, we do kind of try to create an environment where they can come to the house or know they could. But usually the last place they want to be is wherever he is.
I heard, I heard one of the players say to me once, one of the former players, that they loved having you around because your interest in them was never about how they had played. Does that make sense? Like you sort of look at them as actual just kids.
Yes, which is how I would want to be looked at, just as a kid going to school, which is why I started, doing something for their birthdays. Mm-hmm. Because, I realized how young they were. They're away from home. It should be special. Somebody should be thinking about them because they're not going to say to each other, hey, my birthday's tomorrow or today's my birthday. And
yeah.
So I started finding out when their birthdays were and doing something to recognize it.
All right, I have to ask you about your husband. You mentioned a minute ago, high strung. All right, so when you watch him and he's on the sidelines and he's yelling at the players as he does, who you also have an individual relationship, do you ever sit there and want to go, don't do that, like give him a break?
Yes.
Have you ever said that to him?
Yes. Yes, more than once. In fact, we just had a player from Memphis come in town, Sean Taggart, and it was really good to see him. And he was the one I used to say, stop yelling at Sean Taggart in practice every day. And this year it's been, stop yelling at Wenyon. I mean, it's like Wenyon, all practice or all games. It's like being a parent and being reprimanded in public, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
Have you ever had that with Brad, where you felt like he was too hard on Brad in those situations?
Not yet. No, and I think he's been pretty good with Brad. I know, and I knew, he was going to call him out, and probably embarrass him or do something.
That's what dads do.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Dads and coaches both, so.
When it's all said and done and he finally retires, first of all, can you see him retired? Like I try to picture, whether it's at Kentucky or anywhere else, the idea that he would just stop. Can you see that? Do you think he would be happy retired?
No, he says he would, but his mind is always going. I think he always just needs to be involved in something. And it's almost like the older he's gotten, the more, he needs to be doing something, or the more
I agree.
The wheels
he
are
just
turning.
keeps adding things, it almost seems like. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I don't know. It's like when he got fired, I'd be saying, one of us has got to get a job.
Because you're going to kill each other?
We got to get out of the house, yeah.
I understand that. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you very much, and
thank you.
we enjoyed it.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.